Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Diet Dr. Griffin!
Hey, this is Diet Dr. Griffin back with another episode of Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. Shane is with us as usual now, which is awesome. Say hi, Shane.
Hello. Hi. Oh, hi. Sorry.
You don't have to say it like literally like I would say it on another show that I've done. So we have shifted over to a Sunday recording schedule. And Sundays, of course, are like the most stressful fantasy baseball days for us in the leagues. I don't know if you feel the same way I do, but Sundays have always just been completely like hair-pullingly stressful.
Yeah, because it is so stressful, I try to get all my healthy scratches in. As soon as I know everything, I set it, and then I just try to enjoy baseball the rest of the day. I try not to look at anything until after the day is over.
Oh, really? Okay, because I'm like micromanaging moves like down to like sometimes 5 minutes before a game starts. I'm making like thoughts about, am I gonna start somebody, am I not? Especially like as you get towards later in the day.
Yeah, so I used to do that same thing, and it just took away from actually what I like enjoy. I love Sunday day game baseball, and I love going to Sunday day games, and it was distracting for me to always just be doing that, and also just biting off my nails and basically being like, if I'm gonna win, I'm gonna win. If I'm gonna lose, I'm gonna lose. In the playoffs, I'll do it, but right now I'm just trying to, take a more Zen approach to Sunday.
The serenity now, the serenity now.
Exactly.
So while we were recording last week, and we'll just open up with this, Ronald Acuna Jr. tore his ACL while we were recording.
Yeah, that was
So
crazy.
so now the Braves, of course, are going to go win the World Series again because the last time Acuna tore his ACL, I think it was the other foot leg that he tore his ACL on. They ended up winning the World Series that year. They made the trades for Jacques Peterson and Adam Duvall and I think Eddie Rosario and like Jorge Soler. They got like a bunch of these random guys, and we were all like looking at the time. It's like, they're not doing anything, and then all of a sudden they just get on a run and they win the whole damn thing.
So I don't know what the odds are in Vegas, but maybe, not the worst bet ever. So
I mean, yeah, the Phillies have been extremely good in the NL East this year, and the Braves have kind of been good, but they haven't played up to their potential yet, and maybe now they will get the kind of adjustments that they need. Outside of Ozuna's been tremendous, but the Braves
yeah,
as a whole kind of struggled.
you were saying that you think that earlier that Acuna might have been hurt before the season even started.
Yeah, so Acuna had a meniscus injury, and this was on the same knee that he tore the ACL on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I wonder if something was related. Maybe he was not fully healed up, and I mean he wasn't playing up to the level that he was last year, and I think some of that could have been just natural regression, or some of that could have just been that he was still kind of nicked up and not 100%.
Yeah, I mean his power was down this year all year, so that would help
Power has
explain
been down
that.
across the board, it seems like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up until like I have a bunch of guys on my team that have not done much in power, and Corey Seager was one of them until like last week when he just like got on a crazy bender and hit like 8 homers in 8 days.
Yeah, him and Aaron Judge right now.
Yeah, it seems like the natural power guys aren't really having the problems with the power. It's like the smaller guys, the infielders aren't really hitting for power at the moment.
Yeah.
Even like Matt Olson is really struggling, and that was a kind of a surprise because he's should be one of the natural power guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very interesting it's a very interesting thing. I chose my team for their on base percentage this year, and I'm every week rocking like a 250 when all my guys' stats last year were like 350 and above. So
Yeah, it's a just interesting environment right now. And I think it is starting to shift. I think we are starting to see more offense, more homers. I'm sure we're going to see more of that as the weather improves. What do you think
yeah.
about the Braves on a whole, though? Do you think they're going to be just fine and they're going to figure things out, or do you think this is like doomsday for them for the season, losing Acuna?
Well, especially since they won the World Series last time this happens, I think that they'll be fine. They'll figure it out. I was reading an article on the New York Post. MLB insider John Heyman has claimed that they might be going after George Springer later this year, which he could be a pretty great addition to that team as well. So,
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the Blue Jays do a sell-off because that's a team that is completely underperformed. I had been hearing rumblings about Vladdy and Bichette, but I hadn't heard anything about Springer Dinger just yet.
yeah. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why I think the Braves will figure it out, and I think the Blue Jays won't. If you want to compare those two teams, so
The only thing that, and I just pulled up Springer's contract. The only thing is that Springer still owed $50 million after this season. And I don't know if the Braves necessarily want to take on that level of commitment,
yeah,
or or would the Blue Jays even want to have to pay for some of that? Because if you're going to give up a guy with that much left on his contract, the other team's going to want some of that cap.
yeah,
Just like how the Braves fleeced the Red Sox into getting Chris Sale and paying all of his money this year.
yeah, exactly.
I,
So,
I
I
know
mean, what's up?
I was gonna say I know Sale got rocked against the A's yesterday, but
Yeah,
he's been a rock for that rotation.
yeah, not as much as Reed Detmers, who got sent back down to AAA after his blow up yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he got sent down to AAA like a few starts after he had the no hitter.
Yeah,
He was a couple years. It was a couple years ago or was it last year? I don't really remember with Reed,
I
but
think it might have been yeah, it was either last year or the year before because I remember that the Angels in Angels pitcher threw a no hitter and I believe it was him. So
yeah, the Angels, they're just a mess.
yeah, they're a hot dumpster fire. So
Yeah, they're the hottest of dumpster fires.
I
Still
was
gonna
watching
be,
the game yesterday and when the bases were loaded and JP Crawford was at the plate, I was like, oh no. And then as soon as he hung him that slider, I was like, well, Reed Detmers isn't going to be pitching anymore this game.
yeah. This has just been I don't know if you've seen on your team. This has just been a very weird pitching week. Like a lot of guys have had just rocky starts and like I've had two pitchers this week take comebackers on their forearms and leave the game.
Oof, man, that's always super scary.
It's rare enough that you see like one guy in the league that has that happen to him in a week. You don't always see that. And then to have two guys on your team have that happen in the same week.
Yeah,
I
that's
had that McGill guy from the I think I get all the McGills. So there's a Tyler McGill, there's a Trevor McGill, there's like a
one of the
Jimmy,
McGills.
Jimmy
Yeah,
McGill for all you Better Call Saul fans out there. He was I think Trevor was the one who got hit, the one who's closing for the Brew Crew while the other guy's out. I'm forgetting his name at the moment.
yeah,
He got hit in the forearm. He just came back yesterday. And then Ranger Suarez, who's been like just one of the best pitchers in baseball this year out of nowhere, he gets hit in the forearm in the second inning of his game against the
oh, geez.
Cardinals. And yeah, they took him out. Now, they don't think his is serious, but we're kind of just waiting to see on that one.
I had Mason Miller blew his first save, and then Brady Singer was sick. So I
Oh,
just like I just didn't have people start today. And then Ronald Blanco got just blown up by Minnesota. So
oh, is that going on right now? Is he the one pitching for them, or is that from
no,
something?
he's not pitching right now. He pitched yesterday, but he didn't even make it 5 innings.
Oof.
Yeah, that was a rough one, that's for sure. So,
All right.
yeah, Logan
Well,
Gilbert got blown up too. I was like, it's just one of those things. When we were going for the sweep, when the Mariners were going for the sweep this week of the Houston Astros, and we had won the first 3 games, and Logan Gilbert was the last pitcher, I almost just didn't play him because the rules on that are someone's going to take the loss, and it's probably going to be him. So,
yeah. So this week we also got a surprise announcement that Angel Hernandez, the much maligned umpire, has decided to retire. And
yay.
yeah, and he has Dan Levitard referred to him as a blight on his people because of Cubans, which is crazy when you think about it. But yeah, Angel Hernandez is just it's kind of mixed feelings for me because I kind of get an enjoyment out of watching people overreact to him.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's like he's terrible for the game. I mean, there's
yeah.
some really comedic moments where like Bryce Harper got so mad at an Angel Hernandez call, he threw his helmet into the out in the stands.
Yeah, I love the commentator on that game too. Was like some fans getting a souvenir.
Yeah, exactly. And Kyle Schwarber had a famous meltdown.
Oh yeah, he threw his bat. That one was good
Yeah,
too.
and he went up, he would go the up and the down and left and right and just
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he pointed, he was like the left side of the plate, then the right side of the plate. He's like, this is too high. This he just basically like did the strike zone for him. So
and it gets to the point with Angel that even like the announcers are just full blown scorched earth on this guy. I think Wyatt Langford earlier this year like struck out on 3 consecutive balls that were called strikes that were like 6 inches off the plate each of them, and it's like, what are you gonna do? It's Angel Hernandez.
yeah.
When I was Googling clips and stuff, I even saw like an old clip from 20 years ago where I don't know if you know if you ever saw this one, but Steve Mongo McMichael, the Chicago Bears, I think he was either defensive end or defensive tackle for like the mid 80s Bears teams. He was
Yeah.
a guest announcer, guest doing the take me out at the ball game at the Cubbies game like 20 years ago. And he made a comment about, I'm going to have a word with that umpire up there. And they really shot it at a younger Angel Hernandez. And it was just like, whoa, this has been going on for 20 years now.
Not only that, so he blew him a kiss. And Angel Hernandez threw him out, like ejected him, which umpires are able to eject fans, but he wasn't actually removed because he's professional athlete. So
Yeah.
I went on to, so I was doing some research too. I went on to sportskeeda.com and found the 5 worst calls of Angel Hernandez. That ranked at number 2, but I'll go through them really quick and
Okay.
see what you have to say. Yeah.
All right.
So number 5 was calling Michael Tucker safe when he never touched the plate. In 1998 in the Mets-Braves rivalry, Mike Piazza was the catcher, and that was when you could literally maul the catcher at the plate, and they just had to hold on to the ball, basically.
Oh yeah. They changed the rules on that.
Yeah, exactly. And so Mike Piazza is basically a brick wall, and Tucker rams into him, doesn't even get close to home plate, and Angel Hernandez calls him safe.
That's like when Leslie Nielsen was an umpire and Naked Gun and like just stops the guy at home plate and he's safe.
I still have not watched that movie, but I need to get on top of it. So.
Yes. Yes. That's number 4, Shane.
Number 4, Marlins versus the White Sox. Game-ending double play. The bases were loaded, and the game was tied 3-3. He called the runner out at first, but he was safe by maybe half a second, and they would have walked off that game with the bases loaded. So,
You're right.
wound up losing as well. So
That always hurts.
now, yeah, number 3 is pretty bad too. It was Adam Rosales of the Oakland Athletics hit a home run to walk off the game as well. They reviewed it, and on the review saw that it was indeed a home run, but the crew chief is allowed to disregard video evidence at that time, and called it back, said it was a fair play, and then the A's went to lose that game.
You mean like a foul ball or just a ball?
A home run. So it bounced off the top. The ball hit the top of the yellow.
Okay.
And like hit a rail and then bounced back into play.
So they treated it like a double or something, or just whatever.
Yeah, so he gave him a double. After reviewing it and seeing that it was clearly should have been called a home run, he still said it was just a double.
I gotta go circle back to the Bryce Harper thing because there I don't know if you ever watched the John Boy where he goes through like what each person says and everything, and like Bryce Harper I'm sorry, the Angel is like, you'll see because they're talking about him like check swinging on a bat, and then Bryce goes up and is like, no, you'll see. And of course, Angel was wrong as usual on these things.
Yeah. So number 2 was the one you were just talking about, Steve Michael.
McMichael, yeah.
Yeah, McMichael, yeah. And then the number 1 was when he blew 5 calls in the ALDS 2018, Yankees versus Boston, and 4 of them were overturned.
And Angel sued the league for discrimination. It was wondering why he didn't get more opportunities in the playoffs. And then you see that he has these 5 bad calls in the playoffs, and you just, these things kind of explain themselves. Not discrimination when you're just really bad at your job.
Yeah, exactly. So
exactly what you're supposed to do as upper management's like, let's have the people who are good at their jobs work in the playoffs, and the people who are bad at their jobs stay home.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually how it is in sports.
Exactly. It's a very performance driven.
So I want to circle back once more to Bryce Harper, because this similarity with what happened this week. Do you remember what happened with Jorge Lopez a few days ago with the Mets?
Yeah, he had that meltdown in the interview, but then it turned out.
So before that, though, he threw his glove into the stands.
Oh yeah, and that's why he got sent down, is essentially. So
well, I think he got a combination of that and how he handled the press conference. But I thought it was interesting that we all love how Bryce Harper threw his helmet in the stands. He's such a gamer, and then when Jorge Lopez has this frustrating moment, throws his glove into the stands, we're like, oh, he's such a bad teammate. Kind of an interesting little a little tidbit there, at least.
Oh, I thought it was funny both times.
Oh yeah, it's funny stuff. I mean, I enjoy Jorge Lopez, and I think there was a bit of mistranslation in there and frustration. Apparently, Lopez also has a kid waiting on an organ transplant, so he's really stressed out at the moment and might not be handling things all that well.
Yeah, I mean, one could only imagine. So
yeah. But, it goes to show, why I think many people in foreign players will typically use the translators to talk. Because sometimes there's these lost in translation moments, especially when you're stressed out coming out of a bad outing, and you maybe say you mean one thing, but you say something else. I mean, I don't know if you tried learning another language, Shane, in your studies.
Yes, I have. I'm actually currently doing a podcast while I'm out walking, learning Spanish.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Aprendiendo
yeah. Oh yeah,
español. So,
you mentioned this before.
yeah.
Yeah, I completely forgot. So yeah, I've tried learning Japanese when I was in college, and oh man, it is really difficult to think in another language, especially when like the syntax and things and just the way that things are phrased are different than what you're used to thinking.
Oh yeah.
In Spanish, is that a similarly structured in terms of like grammatically speaking to English, or I'm not
Kind of,
sure.
only you because it's, Latinate, you try not to end on any prepositional phrases. Those generally come first. If you think about it, how Yoda speaks is
Hmm.
kind of the grammar structure of Spanish, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Star Wars. I mean, not necessarily, but when you listen to native speakers, that's kind of how it sounds. So
Interesting.
yeah, so you'd say, like, we'd say apartment number, and then
Mm.
in Spanish you'd say the number of apartment. So
Number of apartment. Okay.
yeah.
That's intriguing. It's good to know how other cultures operate, because I think it just helps us show that there's sometimes a different way of approaching things, a situation, or just thinking about things in general.
Oh yeah, I mean, I took a little bit of semiology, which is the study of signs, and it's amazing that as human beings, we can even communicate with each other at all, actually. So
Yeah, I got to imagine like what it was like for people trying to learn multiple languages,
yeah,
500 years ago. Like there's no Rosetta Stone or Babbel back then to help
right.
people learn languages, people just gotta had to immerse themselves, I guess, in the cultures and then figure things out.
Yeah, just jump in with both feet and see how it goes. So.
Yeah, jump in with both feet and hope you don't hit your head on a rock.
Yeah. Um,
So, another part of the whole Angel Hernandez discussion is robotic umpires,
mm,
because they were reports that they were going to try to get the robo umps in particular. When we say robo umps, we're talking about like basically automated balls and strike calls, and then there would be like a little earpiece in which the it would tell what the umpire what the call was, and then they would decide to use that call or not. That's kind of up to their discretion.
yeah.
They've been using this in the minor leagues, and they were talking about bringing this up next season, but they've recently, I think Manfred said that they're not going to bring it up next season. Some have speculated is that it's because of the fact that the CBA talks are going to happen after the 2025 season, and they really don't want to rile up the players union any more than that they already are. The relationships between the two parties are extremely sour at the moment. And I wanted to get your thoughts, because I don't think we've talked about balls and strikes and what you think about the human element of the game versus should we have robo umps. So what's your view on this, Shane?
So I personally love the human element of the game. I think a month ago, I was watching a game in which Chris Sale was the Braves were playing the Mariners, and Chris Sale was pitching. And because he has that really broad, sweeping slider, he can kind of get more calls on the right side of the plate as it sweeps into a right-handed batter, especially if the catcher frames it well. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's just consistency. So if you have an umpire who's consistently giving Chris Sale 2 inches on the outside because he is a good player and has that good sweeper now. I mean, traditionally we call it slider. And he knew that the umpire was giving it to him. The batters knew the umpire was giving it to him. And I think that is kind of learning throughout the game what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. As long as it stays consistent, like I'm okay with that because it kind of adds, more to the chess match of what baseball is, in my opinion.
I think you kind of touched on it there is consistency. And
Yes.
it's hard to know what the I mean, every umpire's got their own different balls and strike zone, it seems like. And the umpires union I know has a 2-inch buffer that on the edge of the strike zone that they can I can be basically 2 inches outside, which is like the length of a baseball. It can be a baseball outside and still be considered a strike and a good grading according to the umpire system. But I think honestly a lot of the problems have come from the fact that on like every single broadcast now, you have that little box in the strike zone, and then you can kind of see it.
Yeah, it makes everyone an expert on balls and strikes, So.
Yeah, and it gives everybody a framework now that we just didn't have 20 years ago.
And now it's even it will show you the circle where it lands, and if it touches even minusculely any part of it, it will highlight it.
Yeah.
So now you don't have to be paying that much attention to be like, oh, well, that technically was a strike. So
yeah, I think it makes it much easier for the casual fan to look at a call and be like, oh, that should have been a strike, but it was called a ball. And now like you'll see like the full on trajectory of when they show like a replay or something, they'll show where exactly it landed. They'll be like for the last pitch, it'll like show the pitch coming from the pitcher. The individual graphics kind of know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, I'll show the tracer line and everything.
Yeah, the tracer exactly. Because they do that exact same thing in tennis.
Yeah.
And with because they have issues with balls basically, being inside and outside of the, boundaries in that sport as well. And they can just pretty razor quick know if it's a good one or a bad one. It's in or out, basically.
Yeah, and honestly, on that note, I think maybe one of the solutions, because obviously I have to offer a solution to make it better. I can't just be like, no robot umpires. One of the solutions could be something like when they get 2 challenges a game, like you're allowed to challenge 2 strikeout calls, and managers would like hold those for pivotal moments in the game and see if it's a 3rd strike or not.
Well, what happens though when you've got a bad pitch and it's the first pitch at the at bat?
Then it's not it wouldn't be I mean, I'm assuming that umpire would be either wildly inconsistent that game or just not calling that pitch to start. And so that's that goes back to the human element of having a human umpire, I guess. And you just have to eat that, even though the difference between 1-0 and 0-1 is extreme, you just have to be okay with otherwise the game would be way too long and stopping to review things, and it'd be like football where you have 10 minutes of play, 60 minutes of reviews, and 30 minutes of commercials. So
we kind of have some of that now with reviewing on certain calls, though.
Yeah.
With, stolen bases and things. Stolen bases, maybe when the managers implement their challenges.
Yeah. But I think with the stolen bases, especially late in games, that could be like those strikeout calls, essentially. I think it could work the same way. I mean, that would be my solution to not going with robot umpires. But
yeah, I mean, I think if you are going to implement the umps, you need to have some kind of a balls and strikes challenge system, maybe for limited use during a game, maybe 1 or 2, and maybe you aren't allowed to challenge until the last couple of innings. Maybe that's another one, or
yeah, I'd be okay.
Not allowed, or maybe you're not allowed to challenge in the early parts of the game if there's nobody on base. because that's a whole nother variable too. If somebody's depending on the situation of the game, are you ahead? Are you down? Some of those high leverage situations aren't necessarily in the ninth inning of the game. Sometimes the deciding moments are in the sixth or seventh inning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or in the fifth inning when you cough up a grand slam and then the other team just runs away with it. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, momentum swings don't always happen at the end of the game. They can happen midway through.
yeah.
So another interesting development came out this week, and that was that officially now the stats that were accrued in the Negro Leagues are considered Major League Baseball stats. And so that has changed the dynamic quite a bit with the record books, where Josh Gibson is now the leader in batting average and some of the single season stats as a result. And I wanted to get your thoughts about this as well, because I'm kind of against the merging of the stats so much, because I don't think the leagues are apples and apples, apples to apples. It's really an apples and oranges thing. The Negro Leagues, I mean, look, the players there should have been allowed to play in baseball. Like, that's just obvious
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah. Rule number one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I don't. Josh Gibson should have been allowed to play baseball. So, Jackie Robinson should have been allowed to play earlier, and numerous other players should have been allowed to play. It's not right that they weren't allowed to. But at the same time, I don't think like the stats should be merged together as if they both played together, because they didn't. And the league structures were set up differently. Like, they only played 50 to 60 games in some of the seasons. And, Major League Baseball back then was like 140, and it was a much bigger grind. I think Gibson only had like under 2,200 plate appearances for his career.
yeah, that's something to consider too.
That's a major one. I mean, there's other players in MLB that are up on the record list, and they only have like 3,000, and even then there shouldn't have been a limit on that. But I want to get your thoughts on this topic, Shane, and I left it only like 5 minutes to talk about it.
Oh, perfect. Well, I was actually more curious to hear yours because I respect your opinion on it, and I think that's a very valid opinion. Mine is kind of like, I guess this is just, baseball's version of reparations for doing the wrong thing at the time, I guess. It's more, I see it more of like a PR thing. I don't know if it really changes, for me, anything other than, some baseball stats will be different, but that, to me, that isn't as important to me. I really don't care either way, I guess. I guess is what I really care about, what we talked about earlier, is that they should have never been excluded in the first place, and we can't go back and change that now. So.
Yeah, I just, that's kind of what I was like, where are we gonna draw the line? Because the Japanese and Korean leagues, are we supposed to now start counting Ichiro's hits in Japan as like his?
Yeah, because wouldn't he be like the all-time hit leader or something like that? So.
Yeah, because he had a tremendous career before being able to come over to America and be the dominant player that he was here.
Yeah,
Ichiro could have been pretty good across the board, and there's complexities involved. I mean, Shohei Ohtani came over much earlier than usual Japanese players do, and that was like a monetarily structured situation.
Yeah,
there's a whole posting system over there, and basically, like, Ohtani cost himself like $25 to $50 million easily by coming over as early as he did. Now, obviously, he's made it up.
Yeah,
you don't know these things when you're a young player coming over.
Yeah,
it's like
I think maybe the solution would be to add the stats with a footnote, I guess. I don't know. So it's just a hard one to say.
Yeah, and it's not like, I mean, look, guys like Josh Gibson are already in the Baseball Hall of Fame, so it wasn't like his contributions to the game were ignored. It's one of those things where, like, you go on your baseball reference page and it's like Josh Gibson, 2-time World Series champion. And I'm like, wait a minute, he never played in the major leagues and he's a World Series champion? It's like,
Yeah.
that one kind of is a little hard to wrap my head around.
But then so yes, I agreed. But then the flip side to that is you have people who look that guy up and then learn about the Negro Leagues who don't know about it, and then hopefully, do some more research into that. And it's could be arguably a social cultural better thing
Yeah.
than necessarily, a statistical, thing. So
Yeah, baseball is like the sport that above all others really cares about the history of the stats.
yeah.
Basketball, they don't really care about all that stuff, and they just have different generations of different rules and things about that. But baseball is like really historical on their stats, so this is kind of a big deal for the purists out there. But
Oh yeah,
it
yeah.
helps people get exposure to some of these great players who were unfortunately excluded from playing in baseball. But I'm fine with that aspect of it for sure.
Yeah. And I think honestly, mainly that's probably what MLB was going for, honestly,
Yeah.
with including it. So
All right. Well, we're pretty much nearing the end of our show today. So I want to say thank you for Shane for coming on again, and hopefully we'll be doing this again next week with the two
oh
of
yeah,
us here. I think
absolutely.
it's just fun. And also, as a bit of housekeeping, we're finally on Apple iTunes. It took
Whee!
it took like forever for me to figure out the Apple riddle, but we finally got on there. So if you're on, you'll see us on iTunes. Give us a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. Do you have anything else you want to say, Shane?
Yeah, fun fact, Babe Ruth punched an umpire and then Ernie Shore came in and threw a no-hitter.
Awesome. Awesome. Gotta love the punch in the umpire stuff. No, but
Yeah,
don't punch your umpire. Don't punch your umpire.
only in 1917, so.
Yeah, 1917. Things were different 100 years ago. All right, well, I'm gonna sign off for the show. I'm Dr. Griffin,
I'm Shane.
and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.